mean exactly? To my surprise, she revealed to me my husband just filed for divorce, a consequence of the nature of my career as a travel nurse. Internally, I couldn't help but wonder, what kind of a man initiated a divorce during a pandemic while his wife, a frontline worker, faces the trauma of witnessing lives being claimed. Welcome to Harmony in Healthcare, navigating nursing shifts and relationships. I am your host, Tico Da Silveira, an RMBS and critical care nurse, an author, and also a broker. So today, we delve into the intricate world of healthcare professionals, exploring the challenges nurses face in maintaining harmony between demanding shifts and personal relationships. So this movement actually began with a simple conversation during my time as a travel nurse in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic. A fellow nurse's heartfelt plea to safeguard personal relationships sparked the inspiration for this dialogue. So today we are going to embark on a journey to shed light on the impact of nursing shift on our personal lives and discover strategies for finding harmony. So joining us today, we have Mr. Kenny. Mr. Kenny is actually an experienced nurse and a serial entrepreneur. We also have Mrs. Kim, also known as Kimberly. She is also a serial entrepreneur and also an experienced nurse. We also have Mrs. Maya Perkins joining us today. So Maya is an experienced nurse, a serial entrepreneur who has navigated a delicate, balance between a nursing career and maintaining a healthy relationships. And we also have Mrs. Shanae, who is also an experienced nurse and an entrepreneur. Welcome to the show, everyone. So what inspired me to explore the challenges nurses face in balancing their demanding work schedule with personal relationship in my book, Nursing Shifts and Relationship Drifts, Finding Harmony. So the personal relationship stories that my fellow nurses were dealing with outside of the hospital were both heart-wrenching and eye-opening to me. From marriages strained by irregular schedules to the emotional toll of being physically apart from loved ones during critical moments. These narratives painted a poignant picture of the sacrifices and struggle nurses endure beyond the hospital wall. And it became evident that addressing these challenges is not just about our professional lives, but it is crucial for the well-being of our personal lives as well outside of the hospital walls. So the stories shared were a rallying cry for starting a conversation within our nursing community, prompting the need for strategies to protect and harmonize our personal relationship amidst the demanding landscape of patient care. So in a profound encounter, a remarkable, reserved nurse known for her quiet demeanor, she actually approached me with a personal message that resonated deeply. Her message to me was, Tico, don't let nursing shatter your home. Go back to your family and husband. Don't follow my path. Avoid the struggle I am grappling with now. I was really curious and I was like, what do you mean exactly? To my surprise, she revealed to me my husband just filed for divorce, a consequence of the nature of my career as a travel nurse. Internally, I couldn't help but wonder, what kind of a man initiated a divorce during a pandemic while his wife, a frontline worker, faces the trauma of witnessing lives being claimed by the virus for over 12 hours a day? Does he even comprehend the emotional toll we were enduring at that time and that we are still enduring? Mind you, he had the privilege to stay at home during the pandemic and literally not have to face this virus head on like we had to as nurses. But let's move on to another story. So another nurse grappling with fears of loneliness and vulnerability expressed to me, Tico, I am terrified of returning to an empty apartment. What if I contract COVID and there is no partner to care for me? What if I succumb in my sleep? This just shows you the trauma and how nurses are hunt every day with these type of thoughts in their head. I just want to allow that to sink in for a second while I share another story with you. So this is from another nurse who shared a poignant piece of advice to me, cautioning me against letting the allure of lucrative contracts overshadow the essence of life. She said to me, Tico, don't let this hospital and the substantial paycheck hinder your journey to motherhood. It is easy to get caught up in the pursuing the highest paying contracts and neglecting your home and your relationships. Time slips away. And I find myself, this is her, I find myself investing over $100,000 in surrogacy because I waited too long to prioritize becoming a mother. See, these are things that we really do not think about while we are like, on the chase of pursuing our career as nurses. So these stories merely scratch the surface of the trials nurses face during the pandemic. And my mission is to ignite a conversation within our nursing community, fostering dialogues on how to safeguard and harmonize our personal lives amid the challenging landscape of our noble profession. So in my book, I touch on how irregular nursing schedules, especially as a travel nurse, can strain personal relationships. So can you share with our audience examples or stories that highlight the impact of nursing shifts on family dynamics, marriages, or even partnership in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I work. Oh, go ahead. Who do you want to go first? I can go second.
It doesn't matter. It's like an open forum.
Ladies first.
Oh gosh. So, for me at least, especially because how we were discussing previously about traveling back and forth between here and California, my life is in New York. So I had to create a balance essentially because I knew that every time when I was going to go on assignment, I would be away for a very long period of time. So it would be, I wouldn't say a hassle, but it would take a lot of work to actually make time to meet up with people, make sure before I leave, there was a meetup or a group activity that happened because they knew that they wouldn't see me for a while. And then doing the same thing basically when I came home because, you miss your friends, your family, people that you love. Now, being there, I always made sure that, I called my family, texted my friends. If they needed me, I was always there. And I don't know if you want me to go into the whole dating thing.
Oh my God, please, because I was just going to say Nurse Kim is playing a little bit too safe. So I need you to dive a little bit deeper into the juicier stuff. Yes, dating. Please do.
Okay. So surprisingly, I downloaded Hinge. People was talking about it so much. So I downloaded Hinge. But I made sure that I did it only when I was in California. Now, I know it sounds bad, especially as, being a New York girly, but I already knew what was out here men-wise for New York, and it just hitting. So I was like, you know what? Let me try Cali since I was out there. And not to say that it was bad, but it could have been better. I mean, it's no words, honestly. It's no words. It's not, it was difficult.
So was it the people that you were kind of meeting on Hinge that wasn't really aligning with what you're looking for, or?
It was, that was it mainly. And they would be a certain way on the app. And then when you meet them, the vibe wasn't there. You want a connection, you want a click. And that wasn't there. So it took me a while. And I also just got out of a relationship as well. So it was a back and forth in my mind about that too. But lately, I just been chilling, honestly, because it's hard out here. And I'm 29. I'm trying to get married and find me a man. But the dating is very much trash. It's contaminated right now.
So do you think it is actually harder to find your partner as a nurse compared to when you were, I guess in nursing school or prior to nursing school?
It can be, but it's just really trying to find that balance. That's ultimately what it always will come down to, because working your 3 shifts, you're tired after those shifts. If you're doing your 2s and then your 1 after your 3s back to back, you're always gonna be tired. So making that time and making sure, for me, I've never done overtime before. That they knew not to call me to do overtime because it was too much on my body. So I knew after my shifts, like I needed like a full day to myself. And that caused, it caused to like waste more time in regards to trying to find things outside of nursing, the relationship wise. So definitely did cause a shift with that. So it was really just trying to make sure that I made the time for myself and made sure that I put myself first and as a priority.
Thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I also touched on that a little bit in my book and also in my course about how we need to actually prioritize self-care, because when you don't prioritize self-care, you cannot be present in your relationship. Exactly. And I feel like that's like, that's likely one of the area that I hit a roadblock myself when it comes to like, oh, I need to pick up extra shift. But then it's like, you're picking up these extra shift, but how is it really affecting like, yourself, your personal life, and your marriage at the same time? So sometimes you just have to say no to the extra coins. Okay. Like today, they were literally asking us, oh, who want to work extra for them? I'm like, I am done with that life. Like, you get enough money to work an extra 4 hours after working 13 hours shift. That's abuse. Okay. We're going to give the floor to Mr. Kenny. Same question for you. Can you share examples or stories that highlight the impact of nursing shift on family dynamics, marriages, if you're married, or partnership in your life?
Yeah, so definitely the 12 hours, right? The 3 day week. My thing is more so it's sporadic. You don't have a set schedule. It's like it could Monday, Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday. Yeah, so for me it's the 12-hour shifts obviously after work. It's like you're just limited as to what you can do, because a lot of places are, you just obviously the energy and things like that. But more so for me is the sporadic schedule. Like I was saying, you could be working Tuesday, Wednesday, then Saturday. You could work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You could be working Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So, for nursing, you don't really have that set schedule. I mean, they try to modify it as best as they can. The managers do. But most of the time it's not feasible, just because they can't everybody's schedule. So for me is getting that 2 schedule we have, and just saying just telling your friends, partners, family, tell them like, hey, this is what I have to work with. Like, it's really not modifiable, and we just got to set stuff around it. And I just try to make sure, like, whether it's, your significant other, your friends, or your family, you try to give them like 1 day each, like a week. Right. That way, you kind of keep all that. But definitely is dealing with that sporadic schedule. That's probably the biggest thing. And just in terms of relationship, well, I'm like more straightforward when it comes to relationships. So I kind of let them know up front, like, this is what it's going to have to be. I'm not good. Like, if you like it or not, obviously, if you really love the person, you'll try to be a little more lenient. But for me, it's like, this I'm on right now. And this is kind of like, is this something that could work with you? Because the last thing you want to do is get them in that relationship, and then like out of nowhere be like, oh yeah, by the way, this is my schedule.
Right.
So I just let them know this is what it looks like. I usually work 12. Sometimes I do work an extra day, so that's 4 12s. So realistically, you might have 3 days with me. Like, just let them know up front. And of course, they love you. They really like vibing with you. They can make it happen. And relationships, as you mentioned in your book as well, is like, it's all about, compromise. And nursing is a little different just because of the schedule. And obviously it takes a toll on you mentally. And you have to be able to not, I think we spoke about this before, how, especially those ICU is like, you don't want to just, leave all your emotional baggage on your partner. Like, it's not their fault. Like, somebody coded on you. Right. So figuring out that balance in terms of relationships, you also have to figure out, let me know if I'm saying too much, but you also want to figure out what your partner can tolerate, because I've noticed different, people in your life have different tolerances as to what they want to hear, and sometimes it's like, if you keep telling them more than what they can tolerate, they're just going to block you out, especially men, like, that we just decide to block women out at times when they just a little too much, so I'm just being honest. So for women out there,
I'm glad you said that. I don't mean to cut you off. I'm glad you said that, because there's been days where, like, I will come home from work and I want to share what really happened, And my husband literally just flat out said to me, Tico, that's work. Like, you don't bring work home with you. But I'm like, the type of like, career that I'm in, I have to talk about it. That's, that's how I kind of get it, like, get it off my chest. Or like, to me, I consider that therapeutic. So I think it's there's like, you have to find a balance when it comes to what your partner can or cannot tolerate. Because sometimes they just have to be like, the loving partner that they need to be. So just like, listen to you, even if it's not like, it doesn't interest them at all. They just need to, they just need to listen to you. So I feel like those are like, also red flags to look in in a potential partner that, you're vetting. Okay, yes, granted, they're not going to be like, open to what I'm talking about, but if they really care, then they need to actually be open-minded and just listen to me. Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's a great point because it goes both, ways, right? Like sometimes, like as a man, like, you tell your partner or whatever, and you say, like, this is what I'm going through. And you start like, talking about people at work, like that did something to you, or like, I'm gonna get them back, or you just have like, they don't want to hear about you trying to retaliate on people. And sometimes there's some remarks that patients make that, we don't like. And it's not,
right.
I mean, for me, I just rather, I'm more so like, I'll keep it in. And if she asks, then there's other things at home you have to take care of, more important than work.
Kim is shaking her head like, Kim,
you
have something to say, Kim? Because I'm agreeing with you too, Kim. Like, I have to let it out, but go ahead.
I feel like that's a man thing to like hold in their emotions. And I feel like, especially as a nurse, you already know how important it is to have a proper mental. And men choose to like hold things in and do like this passive aggressive thing, and it's not the best for the relationship. So just like how you want to make sure that your partner is comfortable, you also have to be comfortable as well. Like there has to be, like I said, a balance. Like you can't be taking on all of this emotion from someone that you're taking care of in the hospital, and then you come home and you're holding that in, because then it's going to reflect in your relationship as well. So that's why I have to shake my head, because I'm like, why do guys do that? Why do men do that? Like, talk. This is your partner. This is the person that you plan on spending the rest of your life with. If you don't speak on the things that you're going to be doing for a good majority of your life, nursing, like you plan on doing it for a couple of years, not just a couple months, you got to like try and build a healthy lifestyle around it. So whatever is bothering you is not, to me at least, is not the healthiest option for you. That's why I shook my head.
And I'm glad you say that, Kim, because I remember when I started working in the ICU as a new grad, I was pretty much like, holding everything in, not knowing that I was actually taking that aggression and frustration on my husband when it comes to like, how I talk to him, how my tone changes, where he just asks me a simple question. And he literally called me out and said, Tico, this is not you. Like, what is really going on? Because if you don't talk about it, you're just going to like, continue to take your aggression and frustration on an innocent person. They can't read your mind. Like, you have to be open enough to share what it is that you're going through. And if they truly care, they will understand. They will, notice those sort of differences in your attitude, your behavior, and they will call you out on it instead of like, saying, oh, I don't want to talk about it. You should leave that at work. Because in the line of work that we are in, it is impossible to leave what we do at work and just come home like, everything is all rosy, because that's not reality.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your perspective. And I mean, I don't want to get that deep, like in terms of how you start talking about grooming, right? So men, like, we are groomed differently from birth. I don't think like women really understand that, to you is like, you girls are always like told to go ahead and express your emotion, share, go ahead and cry. That's fine, is normal. As a man, how many times do we hear that? Or as a child, even as a child, we rarely go ahead and let it out, cry. For us, it's more like, just suck it up and, on to the next one. And, or another thing they tell us is like.
So from your perspective, as a nurse, Kenny, will you encourage like, male nurses to also start voicing their opinion and their feelings when it comes to like, what they encounter in hospital walls? Do you think that, that's also, that can be therapeutic for them as well? Instead of like, just putting up a wall saying that, oh, I'm a man, I'm not, I wasn't raised to share my emotions, or can you elaborate on that for me a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, said I wanted to go back to like when since we're kids, right? I just 'cause that's important.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important piece here. Like we can't just now we're adults and it's like okay, well everything that we learned for 18 years is gone. Like it's still there.
Right.
So it's kind of like a software. You have to reprogram the software with new code, but it takes time to do that, right? So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
essentially, yes, I do encourage, male nurses to go ahead and do, some therapy or go ahead and just voice their opinion or express themselves to their partners, families, or whoever their significant is absolutely helpful. But
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned it in your book too as well, and I'm really big into like self development and knowing oneself first because for example, for a man, for a woman, for it seems like a lot of women that I speak to, they really just want somebody to listen. They really just want somebody to be there, and they're gonna just like let it all out, right? And then for them, that's their relief.
Mm-hmm.
For men, it's a bit different. It's like, for example, some men they rather just not be bothered. Like, say there's a tough shift, ICU, somebody coded or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
for men, it's like we have to process everything that just happened. So we thinking like, man, this just happened. This is crazy. What could have been done different? Now, next time we thinking about solutions, right? And
Right.
then, like for me, for example, after a tough shift, like I'm not gonna I'm not gonna just express everything. Like that's not a relief to me. What's a relief to me is like, being by myself, maybe like putting on some music, maybe just eating a good meal. And then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, I'll go ahead and talk. So for men is different. You have to not just let everything out because I don't know. We're always thinking about what could we have done differently, and then once we go through those solutions in our mind, then it's like, okay, now let's go. I'm gonna go ahead and tell my partner this, and this is the solution I think I would have had next time this happens. So then now
Okay.
it becomes more so of like a man expressing themselves to get you to like partner with him, and then after that kind of solution, and then like as a woman, as a man, like you could just what we really like is when like a woman they just like you
Mm-hmm.
hear our suggestions, and then you pretty much say, oh yeah, that's a good idea, like kind of just come into agreement as opposed to
Mm-hmm.
just as opposed to us just venting everything.
Right.
We're gonna present to you a potential solution, and then from there we do like to like a reinforcement. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Things like that. So it's a little different. That's kind of how I get.
I think
Yeah.
women are also like that too, but I feel like when it comes to working in the hospital, we actually come across certain things or encounter certain like situations that we've never dealt with before, especially when it comes to like, your patient not making it at the end of the day, at the end of a 13, 14-hour shift. So with something like that, of course you have to like, share that with somebody instead of like, walking around with that, I don't know, with those questions in your head, like, oh, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? Although at the end of the day, it wasn't your fault. It wasn't anybody's fault. It was just their time to go. But you just have to like, kind of talk through that with somebody that will, understand what it is that you're talking about or where it is that you're coming from, just to provide a listening ear, to be quite honest with you. So I think that's where we were coming from, right, Kim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question for y'all too. So when you have said the worst shift you ever had before, right? Somebody coded or somebody, you messed up the intubation, they passed away, whatever. Do you like personally? Do you ladies feel like is that something you would want to as soon as you get home just start like venting to your man? Is that so you can feel heard, or when would you like? At what point do you guys feel like it's time for you guys to go ahead and just vent everything out? I'm just curious, like the time frame.
I mean, for me, you gonna see it in my body language and in my face before
Exactly.
I say
Yes.
anything. So that's why it's important for me to get it off my chest first,
Mm-hmm.
get it out the way, and then I can, go about the rest of my day. But
Mm,
for me personally, I feel like my body language and my face will tell you first. And you already know
Absolutely.
like the vibe is gonna be off. And then they're going to say, okay, well, what's going on? And I'll express myself. But if I feel like I need some more time, I'll let them know. I'll inform them. But I'll also tell them, like, not right now, but we can talk about it a little bit later. But for the most part, like with me, you'll see it first. And then if they ask me and I feel like talking about it, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, so it sounds to me like almost immediately, like once you get home, you're ready to just let it out. All right, what about you, Tico? I'm curious. Is this? Go ahead, Tico.
So honestly, Kenny, I wouldn't say like, it's almost as if, correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost as if you're making it sound like, we just want to be heard. And that's not the point. The point is, if I come home and, my body language is not the same, my attitude is not the same as my partner, of course, even if I say I don't want to talk about it, you can either give me that space or you can actually say, you know what, I need you to open up. Let's talk about it, instead of you walking around with that, frustration, that body language, let's just talk about it. So it's not as if I'm looking for like, somebody's shoulder to cry on immediately. I just need somebody to recognize that, okay, obviously something is not right. Something must happen at work. Let's just talk about it. There's in conversation, there's power in just like, sitting down and just talking to somebody. It actually, I feel like it's probably more healing to me. It heals quicker and faster instead of like, just walking around with it and say, oh, okay, maybe I need to wait a couple of days. Because the more you wait, the more you're going to keep processing this in your head. The more you're going to keep asking yourself these questions over and over. But when you talk about it, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you're right, though. I think you have a great point. I'm just saying, personally, like I could wait like 2 days, like, because for me, I rather, like I said, I process things. So it's not like I'm going to keep it forever. I'm not going to keep that forever. But for me, it's like, okay, in 2 days, I'll tell you everything in detail. Just give me some time. So that's where.
Oh, yeah. So it doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be immediate because you also need time to process what it is that happened prior to sharing that with somebody else. You have to kind of heal yourself first before,
Right.
Because it's very powerful to have that, to be able to actually share something like that with somebody if you haven't actually like, processed it yourself first.
Yeah. And that's, why I'm here, right? So you can kind of show me the ropes because obviously I don't have it all right. So it's definitely good to hear that, So
I feel like we're all learning. Like, I had to learn all of this the hard way because nobody said, oh, Tico, this is how you should do this. This is how you should do that. No. Sometimes I would talk about like, my work to my family and they're just like, Tico, it's a taboo. You can't talk about stuff like that because, I'm African. So, oh, what, you took care of a dead patient today. You did postmortem care. Oh, no, you cannot talk about that. But I'm like, I feel like religiously that also like, affects it as well. So we have Miss Maya join us today. And also we have Miss Shanae on the call as well. Welcome.
Hey, y'all. Hey.
Oh, is that Maya? Okay. I didn't even recognize you.
Yeah, we had Christmas pictures yesterday. So,
okay. Let's move to segment 2, which is strategy for harmony. What advice or strategies will you offer to nurses looking to maintain harmony in their relationship despite the demand of the profession? Nurses they struggle when it comes to like, maintaining harmony or finding that balance between their career and their personal lives. So what advice will you offer them or strategies?
Whoever you're with, you need to make sure that person, whether, whoever that person is, that they understand our lifestyle. I mean, like for me, I'll just say my background. I've been with my husband for 10 years. And I've been married since 2018. And I was with my husband from nursing school, being an RN, travel nursing, the whole 9 yards. So he understood my lifestyle. And when we were dating, there was no I wouldn't necessarily like we compromised, but just saying that like, this is my lifestyle. I work night shift. I work 12 hours. I work X amount of days a week. And if that's something that you cannot handle, then there's no reason for us to continue on with the relationship. So I feel like a good advice would be to just let whoever that person know is upfront what our lifestyle is, what the demand is, what type of stress factors are involved with being in the nursing field, and letting that person know up front. And so that way there's no like, oh, you've been with this person for 3-4 years. And then, they can't come back and say, oh my God, I didn't know like dating you was going to be like this or whatever. No, I'm telling you up front, there are going to be days where like I've worked 12 hours. All I want to do is come home and go to sleep and don't bother me or whatever the situation is, you know, just letting them know up front, this is my lifestyle. And if you're willing to like hop on this roller coaster, this ride with me, then great. And if you're not, then I understand that this life is not meant for everybody, and it's not meant for everybody to understand our lifestyle. And if that person can understand it, then it is what it is, you know. C'est la vie.
So did you actually met your husband prior to like, you know, embarking on nursing or even like, you know, starting nursing school? Okay.
Yeah, I met him when I was in an accelerated BSN program when I met him. Like, I think I was in my second semester of that program in nursing school. So I met him in nursing school. So he's experienced the ups and downs when it comes to nursing, literally from like the baby stages. So in each stage that we went through, you know, I would have that conversation with him where it's like, nursing school, you guys already know, you're not going to have any sleep. You're not going to have any time to yourself, especially if you're in like an accelerated program like I was in. And he was supportive of that. When I became a staff nurse, he was supportive of that. A bigger transition, I'm not going to lie, is when I became a travel nurse, because that required me to leave home and to be away from home for a certain amount of time. So, I mean, that is definitely a conversation that I had with him prior to embarking it. But I'm not going to lie, this is the type of person I am. Even if he would have been like, oh, I don't know about this, I would have been like, I'm still doing it. So, you know, we were dating at the time. So it's like, I'm not going to let you stop my bag, you know. But luckily, he was understanding. And then even now, fast forward, we have a soon-to-be 2-year-old next month. And I'm working per diem out in Los Angeles. And I fly out there once a month. And he's okay with taking care of our daughter for that week when I go out there. So these are conversations that you need to have with those people. And I know it gets a little tough when you're already in a relationship with somebody, or if you're already married to someone and you're embarking on a new journey. That conversation gets a little, you know, that conversation becomes a little harder, especially if that person, well, I don't know, Maya, I'm not really comfortable with this. And, you know, it's easier to have that conversation with someone if you haven't put that time in versus already being in a relationship with someone. But you still need to be open. You still need to be honest. You need to let them know that, like, this is my life. This is what I want to do. This is the way it is. And I would hope that you would support me. And if not, you know, you could say it's no feelings lost or no love lost, but, you know, you could always feel the type you feel. I mean, if my husband would have told me, oh, I'm not comfortable with you going out to LA, I mean, you know, obviously that's my husband. So that's a different type of conversation that I would have had with him. But I mean, I tell people all the time, like, luckily I'm blessed to have a husband that's willing to step up in that role. But of course, not everybody's lucky enough like that. And unfortunately, some people end up having to, compromise. So if they're not willing to meet you all the way, it's always good to compromise and meet you halfway, you know? So that's it.
I'm glad you actually touched on compromising, because this year alone, Maya, I only worked like 3 months out of the entire year. And not because, like, you know, I wanted to, but like you said, you have to compromise. You have to know when to say no, and you have to know when to say yes, especially when it comes to, like, you know, these contracts. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, the biggest thing, especially when you get in a relationship, is compromise, because you're not always going to have it your way. And the same thing with whoever your significant other is. So as long as you guys, like, you guys want to meet halfway with somebody. You don't want to always feel like you're taking or you're giving in any type of relationship. So
I feel like, you know, with the culture of nursing, it is so easy for somebody to turn into, like, you know, always about me these contracts. Like, you know, you just have to, like, you know, accept whatever comes with it. But at the end of the day, you can't have a successful relationship by always, like, you know, prioritizing yourself first and not your partner too. So, okay, so now let's dive into, like, you know, some questions from our listener. I'm going to start with my favorite question. I'm a little bit biased, but it says, how do you manage the emotional toll of witnessing challenging situations in a hospital while ensuring that it doesn't affect your relationship outside of work? And what advice do you have for fellow nurses while ensuring it doesn't affect your relationship outside of work?
That's a good question. I did want to ask, my bad, I should have said earlier, but what is Maya, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did want to add, like, just a quote real quick for everybody. I think it helps a lot. I think Miles Monroe said it, one of the great men ever lived. But he said, like, when it comes to relationships, and it's true, it says, don't ask the person, like, your first question shouldn't be, do you love me? It should be, where are you going? Right? Because if you could love somebody all you want, but if you're going in two different directions, it's not going to work out. So,
Sure.
I like to, label that as non-negotiables. This is where I'm going. And kind of how Maya said, you just let that person know, hey, this is what my outlook looks like, and is this something you can join? Like, can you hop on the roller coaster? Because everybody's on a roller coaster in life, to be honest. It's just a matter of you going the right way. If you're going the same way, if you're going the same speed. So just keep that in mind. But in terms of the question you just asked, difficult situations at work that you take home, yeah, it's just you start, man. I know my friend. I mean, he was talking to me about this, and one thing he has to, he talked about was a situation he confronted where there was he like racist remark towards him, right? And he had never met that specific culture. I think there were. I'm not going to say what culture it was, but after that, he kind of started like generalizing. Oh, I had a bad incident with this type of culture. So maybe this is how they think of all Black people or of all that. And I just told him, like, dude, just kind of get out of your feelings and just take a step back and think about. Sometimes don't take it personal. I said a lot of times when people are reacting that way, it's just because either it's in the moment or that's just how they were brought up. And sometimes you just got to let them know. Sometimes people don't know they're making the wrong move until you like a mirror and tell them, like, hey, what you said is not like, and then they're like, oh, really? And they're like, why is not right? And then sometimes a lot of it has to do with education. Sometimes they say knowledge is power. Well, sometimes, because what if you learn the wrong thing? At that point, it can be a detriment to you. So definitely just educate them and tell them, like, bringing them a situation, just tell them, like, this is why it hit me so hard. And then from there, they can say, okay, well, now I understand why I hit you so hard. And I'm not sure if you guys have encountered situations like, one of your patients, they remind you of like a family member. They remind you of a friend you had before. And then sometimes, like, it could be some trauma that you experienced as a younger person. And then it kind of, sometimes certain cases with certain people and certain demographics hit you harder because it brings that trauma back that you never thought would come back. And then you think you had resolved it before, but once you encounter this patient with a similar situation as that situation you had before, it comes back up and you're like, oh, hold up, what's going on? Like, then that's when your heart starts pounding. Like, man, you start reliving those thoughts. And then that's when you have to know yourself and say, that was the past. And now it's coming back again, but I have learned from it and I'm going to react differently. I'm not going to take it out on my partner, on my friends, on my relationship. So that's just that's what I think about. That's how I answer that question you asked.
Thank you so much for that, Kenny. So I actually want to add something to this. So I had a nurse that literally spent an hour after shift today just to kind of like, talk to me. She literally poured her emotions out to me when it comes to how she felt like she was treated badly just because of the color of her skin. And one of my advices to her was that sometimes you cannot take everything that, you encounter in these workplaces, too personally. You're only here temporarily. If you do not have the confidence to stand up for yourself, because I feel like that's what her issue was. She didn't have the confidence, to draw a clear line when it comes to, okay, I have earned, my rights to be here just like you. And, you shouldn't be treating me differently just because of the color of my skin. But she felt like, there was some racial disparity towards her as a nurse. So, like I said earlier, when it comes to just having conversation with people, you can really heal just by talking your feelings out to other people that are, they're willing to listen to you. So let's move on to another question. So can you provide any insight into the strategies you have personally found effective in maintaining harmony in your relationships despite the demanding nature of nursing?
Well, just like I was saying prior to, like, I just made sure that I made time for the people that I care about. I was going on a contract and I knew I had 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave. We were making time to, have some type of gathering to meet up and, say our goodbyes. And then when I came back, we would hang out again. So it was really just like making time for the people that care about you as well.
Thank you.
I could say I'll have that's at it. Like, when you're on a contract or you're working, you're tired. I'm a night shift nurse. So, when you're tired, you just don't want to be bothered when you get off. If you do 3 days in a row, you probably sleep for like 1 or 2 days after that, and then you're back to it. So I know that has affected relationships, like with family. Family, that your grandmother, my grandmother would try to call me, and my mom. You're just so tired. You don't really want to, and it has nothing to do with anybody else. It's just you don't physically have it in you. So I know for me, opposite, I haven't been the best at doing that. So
thank you. So how has the nursing profession influenced your perspective on self-care? And what practices do you personally find helpful in maintaining your well-being? Because I know us nurses, we do not play when it comes to self-care. So
I take my time off in between my contracts. That's what I do.
Yes.
Off, and I make sure I go somewhere and I treat myself. If it's not the spa or a trip, I'm making sure that I'm doing something fun, something that I enjoy.
That is good. And it's funny because, post my last contract, like I wasn't even keeping track of the amount of time I was taking up until one day I was like, oh my God, I've been home for 6 months. What were you thinking? I mean, of course, my bank account reflected that, but I was like, what were you thinking, girl? Like, you have to go back to work. So any self-care strategies that you want to share with our audience? How has the nursing profession influenced your perspective on self-care, and what practices do you personally find helpful in maintaining your well-being?
Me, a big thing has been nutrition. A lot of times we just try to eat the fast food because it's right there. But at the end of the day, it makes you feel worse. So it doesn't allow your body to get the nutrients that it needs. And you always feel tired. So my advice would just be like I'm about to get a smoothie right now. I like spinach, kale, bananas, strawberries, mangoes, protein. So that's a big thing. Obviously, keeping a balance with staying in shape. I didn't know, I guess there's an excuse during when you go into school as a nurse, how some people put on weight like 10, 15, sometimes 20 pounds. I don't know how you put on 20, to be honest, but
it happens.
But it happens, right? So I can't really judge anybody. But once you start working, 3 days a week, 12 hours after that, so you have 4 days to get right physically. So that one, and also sleep. I noticed I'm still working on this, to be honest. Finally, I got like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Usually I get five and a half, maybe 4, and I can feel it in the morning because I do morning shift. And last week I had like almost 8 hours of sleep, and like even though it was a tough shift, after when it was 7 p.m. I still had energy to like do something after. So definitely get your sleep, nutrition, and those are my 2 biggest things, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I know everybody on the call is also an entrepreneur outside of your nursing career. So how do you actually manage to balance the entrepreneurial aspect of your career with your roles as healthcare professional and partners? That's if you have a partner in your life right now. So, I mean, even though you cannot answer right now, you are an entrepreneur and you're also a nurse at the same time. How are you positioning yourself to also make room for your partner or your future partner that you're pursuing? How do you find balance in your nursing career, your entrepreneurship journey, and also looking for a partner?
I'm gonna have to be honest. So I kind of had to put all that stuff on a back burner because it's already complex to have to do trying to find the balance between my nursing job, being per diem, and then the entrepreneurial thing. Because I'm trying to find what I would say my niche, and then in addition to that, the insurance. So trying to do that, making sure that I'm putting out the information so that I can get more people, and then on top of that, going to work. It's very difficult to also include another person that I may or may not have to deal with emotionally. And personally, I feel like that would take more of a toll on the things that I'm trying to do for myself.
Right.
As a person, like as an individual. So if I, as an individual, still need to, I guess, improve on myself, that's where I would feel like I would need to kind of put someone else in the back.
Right.
So, and it's not to say that I wouldn't want to have that relationship, but I heavily believe in making sure that I am at least close to 100% as possible so that I can be the best me for the person I'm supposed to be with. And as of right now, I don't fully feel like I'm 100% where I need to be. Like, so I feel like personally, I have to put that on the back burner for now.
Okay. So I think this is where, setting goals also come in play. When it comes like, where do you see yourself in 5 years in your relationship? Like, in relationship aspect, where do you see yourself in 5 years when it comes like, your entrepreneurship? But if you were to say right now, what would you say is your priority? Finding the right partner, or actually like, finding fulfillment in your endeavors when it comes to what you're trying to pursue entrepreneurship wise?
Well, definitely for me, at least, is endeavors. I make sure that I'm creating the right foundation so that I can also attract the right partner.
Like that. Okay.
There's a certain level that I'm trying to reach, at least for myself, so that I can be able to also find that in the person that I end up being with. Because you guys are going to be a reflection of each other. And I want to make sure that, to me, at least for me, I want to make sure that I am top tier. And I know I don't have to be perfect, obviously. And, whatever's like I'm working on emotionally, mentally, physically, I'll continually do that. But I want to make sure that I provide a good environment for the person that I eventually end up with, I
like that. Thank you. Any words on that, Kenny?
Entrepreneurship and relationships, or?
Yes. Trying to find balance between being a nurse, being an entrepreneur, and also balancing your personal relationships.
So, I'll say from a male's perspective. So, like fellas out there, definitely find somebody that will be able to especially when you're first starting a business, there's going to be a lot of trial and error. And you need somebody who is patient, who understands the long-term goal. Because if you get somebody who's just thinking about what can I get now from this guy, 2-3 years is like, then she's constantly going to be demanding something that you don't have yet. Right? So that's why you have to first show her where you're going and tell her, this is my vision with this business. I'm losing money right now because it's inevitable. As you guys know, as entrepreneurs, when you're first starting off a business, you have to establish the business. You have to do advertisement. You have to do so many things. Startup costs are really high. So they might be seeing it as, man, he could be spending that money to give me a Gucci purse. I'm like, a Gucci purse right now? Man, you crazy. So you gotta have to let them know you'll get that, but it's gonna be in the future. I'm not saying don't ever get her nothing nice. There's days for that. There's birthdays, there's Christmas, things like that. But to consistently be wanting things that, because this is what I've noticed, right? Especially if you're starting a business. So a lot of times when you're in a relationship, these women out here, especially the younger ones, right? They look at women who are already in their 30s, 40s, who already established, their man already has their business, and he's been working on the business for 15, 20, 30 years. So of course their wife is going to have the Gucci, the Prada, the nice Mercedes, whatever. So try to figure out a way to let them know, we'll get there, but you got to be patient with me. You got to be patient with me. And we are going to take some losses. You got to be straight up with her. Be like, we're going to lose some money at first, but I guarantee you this. And if your girl really believes in you and you tell her, believe me in this, she won't even she might say, it might hurt right now, but she's going to believe you, because women, what they love to do is have a man who has a clear vision. And then once you set the vision, that now they can actually help you. So if y'all doing something together, as long as you're moving forward, then they'll do whatever they can to help you. And that's the type of partner you need. One that buys into your vision, is patient with you, and does whatever she can to help you accomplish that vision. So that would be my advice.
Perfect. So I haven't been in the dating world for the last 14 years, but just based on my observation, I feel like a lot of people, they just want the instant, gratification, the instant result. They just don't have the patience to go through the storm with you.
It's about perspective, honestly.
Okay.
This is one of the reasons why I stated I would, at least for now, stay single, because I know, for me, I know what I want, and when I get to that point, I know what I would bring to the table in the relationship. Right. I have no problem with potential, and I have no problem with a man that has a plan for himself. That's something that I would ultimately encourage, especially when it comes to us building together and then eventually having a family together. However, I've done the dating thing enough to know when I would have to walk away and when I would need to give the man a chance. I've been burned before where it's gotten to the point where I had to be okay, I'm helping you out with this, I'm supporting you in this, but in the end it wasn't
reciprocated.
I wouldn't say reciprocated, but it was, I'm trying to find the right word. I wouldn't say pointless either, because everything is a lesson, but I just felt I don't even know what the right word is, because I want to say a waste of time, but it kind of felt like a waste of time. I wasted my energy on someone that I could have put it into somebody else, basically. Right. So, like I said, that's why it really depends on your perspective. I'm not saying I want the man to come ready with everything set out, but I want someone that's established to a point, or at least to a degree.
Last question. So let's talk about embracing technology and communication tool. So we all know that in this digital age, technology plays an instrumental role in our lives, both professionally and personally. So how do you think technology and modern communication tools can assist nurses in maintaining and nurturing their relationship while managing hectic schedules?
I could chime in on this one. I think it depends on the person, because it's always going to be better to do it face to face, or, being with each other. That's just all a part of, having that relationship, the connection, because it's going to be more difficult to create that connection online or over the phone. However, it does make it a little bit better compared to back in the day when we couldn't do that, or it wasn't available to us. It makes it a lot easier to communicate and, express how we're feeling in that moment, instead of waiting a couple of days to see that person. So there's an advantage to it, but the disadvantage to me would definitely be the fact that I would not be able to always see that person face to face, because things can always get misconstrued online or over the phone through text messages. So it does have its good qualities, but you have to be careful with it.
I like that. Yes.
I mean, I'm gonna say, I'm finna call out my age. So, when we started dating friends, Instagram had just became a thing. So we've never been dependent on social media or technology like that. I mean, when it comes down to my relationships, I'm old school. I'm going to call you up on the phone. I'm going to text you. I will say definitely FaceTime has definitely been a great one, because you're able to video chat them. Or if you don't have FaceTime, I think there's something with Samsung. I know they have something too. But anyways, video chatting definitely is a great one. While I'm out in Los Angeles, I'm able to FaceTime my husband. I'm able to see my child. So that definitely helps keep the relationship, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say strong, but it aids in the relationship as far as communication, I guess I should say, is concerned. I mean, social media obviously is, a good thing. You're able to communicate with people via social media, post pictures, videos, whatnot. But I mean, I'm old school. I like to just talk to somebody on the phone. So
Thank you. So me personally, I do have a passion for cooking, especially when it comes to cooking for my husband. So when I'm not on a nursing assignment, I found a creative way to bridge that gap and maintain our connection. So I pretty much leverage technology to have delicious meals delivered to him. Just kind of allow us to kind of share our virtual dinner experiences instead of him spending that time away from our connection by cooking for himself. So that's how I personally leverage technology. Kenny, you want to chime in on that?
I guess just briefly, I mean, you could do, I know my friend, I don't know, because he's doing long distance or whatever. And he figured out a way to get his girl got him to buy into doing long virtual movie dates. So what they'll do is they'll put on the same movie at the same time.
Yes.
And they're on FaceTime. They're on FaceTime the whole time, so they can see each other's facial reactions to each part of the movie. So that's the way they've been connecting. And then for me, it's just like, for me, it keeps it fun. Like you can send Bitmojis, all kinds of things like that. Ultimately, right, face to face is best. But if you can have fun with social media, the recipes of like Martha Stewart or something like that. So it works as long as you tailor it to your partner. You have to know what they like, and then you can send them videos of like their favorite comedian or things like that to kind of, they're having some type of day, just send them that and they'll be like, yeah, I really appreciate what you sent me. That got my day going well. Just things like that, nothing too much, but.
Perfect. So let's wrap this up with this last question. Let's talk about the role of workplace support. So alongside personal effort, the role of the workplace in supporting nurses is critical. So I know we have, already touched on self-care, but how do you think healthcare institutions can actually better support nurses to ensure a healthier work-life balance? Because honestly, they suck that ass. So let's you're just a number to these health institutions, seriously. But anybody want to chime in on that other than leaving the profession?
I mean, if they have the funds, hiring more people would definitely help.
Right.
Like outside, we don't need no more pizza parties. We don't need no more this not necessary. Like bring the things that are actually going to make a difference in the field. Making sure that we have enough staffing, making sure that, during Nurses Week, they actually, bring something like maybe like a masseuse. Or I see so many stuff out in California that they be doing, and they don't do that over here in New York at all. So,
Kim, don't worry. I'm gonna be on your neck to get your California license.
No, I have my license. I have my Cali license. I've been out in Cali before. That's
okay, good.
Work it's good. Cali for work is good, but I just like the vibe of Brooklyn better. Like personally, I just like, but
you gotta go to California 6 months or something. Then you'll like California. I'm just saying,
Yes.
Crazy to me. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's one thing I was gonna add, the massage thing. So I just started working at a new facility, and man, they have massages. So I tell you, that day the workflow was so much better. I think it's more, it's just a 15-minute massage, but everybody's mind is like on the massage. Like their mind is like, I can't wait to get the massage. I can't wait. So then they feel heard, like, wow, they care about me. They'll give me a free massage. So I'm not saying it was the good massage, but at least psychologically, it lets the nurse like de-stress for that moment. And that's good enough for them to have a great shift. So yeah, more massages once a week.
I feel like instead of providing what they think the nurses want, I feel like they need to listen to nurses more, right? Because just because you're providing massages to us nurses, that doesn't mean that's what everybody is struggling with. People are dealing with mental, psychological traumas just from working at the bedside. So they need to invest more money into listening to nurses in order to better understand what it is that they need and not what they think the nurses need based on their budget. That's just my comment. Yeah.
And in New York, I know in California they do offer like therapy sessions or something like that if you're going through trauma or something like that. But in New York, I'm not sure. Chicago, Georgia, I don't know how they do it out there. What do they offer right now in New York for you, or Brooklyn? Yeah.
So they, especially if your staff, definitely do have a person that you can talk to, like some form of therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. Like I've never gone to the point where I'm just like, okay, what does it offer? But just to my knowledge, I think it's just like someone that people can come to and speak to about their problems or their issues and stuff like that.
Okay.
Cool.
And I honestly think that I don't know if any any hospital is doing this or not, but I feel like they need to start a dialogue post-COVID. Because I feel like a lot of nurses are still kind of left traumatized from COVID, or, still working around with the trauma that came with working in the pandemic. So is any institution that you guys know are doing that, or they just kind of push it behind the back burner as if COVID is over? We don't have to talk about what happened during COVID.
No, I feel like they just swept it under the rug after they was like, oh, heroes, yay, nurses. Like after that, on, everything else followed with it. So unfortunately,
yeah, that's really sad. God forbid we come across another pandemic. God forbid, knock on wood, I hope it doesn't happen. Like, who are they expecting to be like the next heroes? 'Cause I know it's not going to be me, because I have learned my lesson working in the pandemic. Because hospitals don't prepare you to work in a pandemic. Your nursing schools don't prepare you to work in a pandemic. So what are they doing moving forward to make sure that nurses are properly healed from working in the pandemic? Because it's not normal to go to work in a pandemic where you have 5-6 patients called in or passing away in a single day. We need to have those conversations. We need to start talking about things like that. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. What I hear is they just say, yeah, we survived and that's it. Like, okay, we still traumatized and you still go ahead.
I have literally had nurses say that to me. I am afraid to go home because I don't have any partner. I don't have a husband. So what if I go home and I get COVID and I passed away in my sleep? Anyway, this was amazing.
Oh, hey, there's a lot of people that, people.
Oh, Maya's still with us.
Oh, yeah, you back.
Sorry, my daughter, she woke up, so I'm juggling her. But yeah, there's people who weren't in the healthcare profession that were dealing with that too. And I didn't do some in New York, but I heard about nurses that were literally passing out in the hospital. I forgot what they called it. It was silent hypoxia or something like that. But you know how some people are able to function, even their O2 stats are in the 80s and 70s. So they were working in New York, not realizing that they had COVID in the middle of the shift, just passing out and ending up a patient themselves. Come to find out, friend, you are barely breathing, your O2 stats is in the low 80s and stuff like that. And now they're patients themselves while they're working their butts off.
And I have personally cared for those patients, doctors, and even resident doctors myself. And most of them didn't even make it.
Wow.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Imagine your own coworker being in that position that any of us can end up in. It's scary. Seriously. It's very scary. But I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Oh my God, this was so invaluable, insightful. Hopefully we can do this more, often. Just sit down and have conversation. It doesn't even have to be recorded. Just have conversations. Just talk it out. Talk it out. That's all. So to our listener, we hope this episode has offered you perspective and strategies to navigate the complex world of nursing and personal relationships. So don't forget to grab your copy of Nursing Shift and Relationship Drifts, Finding Harmony for deeper understanding and guidance. As we wrap up, always remember that finding balance in our lives, both professionally and personally, is a continuous journey. It's not going to happen overnight. So please stay tuned for more inspiring discussions in our upcoming episode. Until next time, take care, stay balanced and connected.